بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
Abu Abdurrahman asks, how do we advise those who have lost trust in the ulama to regain trust in them in order to benefit from them? Tayyib, we can remind them with the shar'i evidences. I'd like you to remind me in case I forget. An evidence-based approach and a logical-based approach. The first one, the evidence-based approach, that we remind them that Allah Ta'ala يَرْفَعِ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا مِنْكُمْ وَالَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْعِلْمَ دَرَجَاتٍ. Allah Ta'ala has raised the people who believe amongst us and the people who have knowledge, darajat. وَإِنَّمَا يَخْشَى اللَّهَ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ الْعُلَمَاءِ. And the only people who really fear Allah are the ulama, they are the scholars. And that Allah Ta'ala raises people by the book of Allah and lowers others by it. And that Allah Ta'ala keeps ta'ifa, a group of people upon the truth, successful. It doesn't harm them whoever opposes them. And they're alive. In every place, in every time, there will be scholars holding to the truth and the people can seek them out. That's the textual approach. The logical approach to inviting them back to practicing their religion in a good way is to look to those who have stepped up to be replacements to our scholars in the West. Look to them and look to what they have been leading the Muslims into. Look to the people in the West who say, with all due respect, we love our scholars over there in the East. We love them and we honor them and we benefit from them and we make dua for them. And they have all this kalam, that's sihr, magical speech. With all due respect, they don't live in America. They don't know what we're going through and we have our own scholars. You know some names of people who speak like this. The number one proponent of this kind of approach is, from my knowledge and from what I know, the one they call Yasir Qadhi. Yasir Qadhi leads the people into agreements between Ahlul-Sunnah and Ahlul-Bid'ah that we shall work together and remain silent about the issues that we differ over. Yasir Qadhi spent a long time slowly snipping off his followers from the scholars with different logical approaches. And then, when he felt he had gotten them to follow him and to trust him, he took them this way. He took them to Ahlul-Bid'ah, soofees, shee'ah, all types of people of innovation. Agree with them to come together and work for Islam and set aside our differences and not be critical of each other. Well, as you know, many people woke up, and many people are still waking up today to the deviance of such an approach. And that, no, my brothers and sisters, there are no people that try to replace our scholars by any number of arguments. By saying Jarh and Ta'deel is too harsh, by saying Hanbali fiqh is too limited, by saying what they say scholars have allegiances to rulers in Muslim lands, and by saying various things. The scholars are too old and they don't know the situation. Their heads are in the books. All they teach is the yellowed pages of the books. Every type of argument they have. When you find people guiding or misguiding the people away from the guidance of the scholars of Islam to themselves, then there will be no good beyond that. They will not take you anywhere except into more deviance. There is a reason why they are calling you away from the scholars of Islam. And you may not know it right now. You may not be able to identify what innovation this person is trying to take me to. He might have lectures that sound wonderful. Wake up for Salat al-Fajr. He might have lectures about Iman and increasing your Iman. He might have lectures about how beautiful the Quran is. He might have lots of beautiful speech. But you don't know where he's taking you. And if someone is cutting you off from the scholars and asking you, directly or indirectly, by his approach or by his words, to rely on the people in the West and don't look back to the scholars in the Eastern lands, in the Middle East, who don't have any real connection to our reality and what we're seeing and what we're living, then stay away from these people. Even if you are unable to identify what kind of innovation they're on, they could never be upon good. Never. Because they are calling away from the Ta'ifat Mansura. They're calling away from the group of scholars on the face of the earth that save the people by Allah's permission, that reject Ahlul-Bid'ah and keep the people safe from Ahlul-Bid'ah. When these cowards and sissies with certificates and diplomas stand side by side with them and cannot speak. It's the scholars who love the Ummah and care about them, who will speak when people fail to speak. It's the scholars who fear Allah, and they're not looking for recognition of the people and approval and applause. The scholars of Islam are looking for the pleasure of Allah Ta'ala. The likes of Shaykh Saalih al-Fawzaan, the likes of Shaykh Saalih al-Luhaydan, the likes of Shaykh Rabee Ibn Haadee, the likes of Shaykh Abdul Muhsin al-Abad, and their brothers from the ulama, the scholars of Saudi Arabia and everywhere else. The scholars of Islam are the ones who love the Muslims and are concerned about the Muslims. And the youth that try to pinch you off from them, they have nowhere to take you other than deviance. So be warned, and Allah Ta'ala knows best.